Welcome to Global Citizen Life podcast. Today on the show, we have Rhonda Britten. Rhonda, thank you very much for joining us today.
Ooh, I'm so excited to be here. There's nothing better than thinking of the globe as our home.
It is pretty amazing, but I would like to know, what is fearless living to you?
Ooh. Well, fearless living is not jumping out of a plane. It is not,
Ooh.
jumping out of the sky, right? Most people, when they hear fearless, they think of physical freedom, right?
Hmm.
Right? Like I'm fearless. I'm fearless. I'm like, well, how are you fearless? Oh, I go anywhere. I'm an adventurer. It's like awesome. So you're physically fearless. Okay, that's awesome. But what is your emotional life like? Like how emotionally fearless are you? And I remember this guy came to my book signing in Atlanta, Georgia, 6'3". He's like, I'm fearless. I'm like, you go. And do you mind if I give you a quiz? He's like, sure, go ahead. I'm like, great. I said, so can you say I love you first? Have you forgiven? Have you forgiven yourself? Have you let go of your regret? And I just asked him, a lot of these, can you say I'm sorry? And his face just went, wah, 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 right? Because we don't necessarily of being fearless as emotionally fearless. So there's physical fears and emotional fears. Physical fears, I like to think of as instincts, like your instinct to stay alive, right? Well,
Hmm.
emotional fears are actually the same. It's your instinct to stay not embarrassed, not get embarrassed, not be humiliated, right? Not be shamed, not fail, right? Not, et cetera, not, not be, last in line, right? So it's the same thing. Our body actually responds exactly the same to emotional fears as physical fears. But most people, poo-poo emotional fears. They'll take the, get rid of the procrastination class, but they don't necessarily understand that fear is at the cause of that.
Well, but it's easier, I guess, to hide those emotional fears
Yes,
than
that's right.
physical fears because we can be like really scared and still jump out of that airplane because I did that. I mean, I loved
Me
it.
too.
I am a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. I do things but they do make me scared. And every time I'm doing it, I'm like, what the F am I doing this for?
Right.
But I do it. And then part of me is like, yeah, overcome that fear.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And it's wonderful. That's fantastic. It'll give you more resilience in your emotional life, hopefully. Hopefully it'll transfer over, right?
right. Right. And another thing that, which people think too with that fearless is because I've moved abroad so many times. And as, part of global citizen life, it is about moving abroad and doing things differently. But I always ask people too, is why do you want to move? Like,
Yes.
what is your why? Because a lot of times if we get bored, we're just unhappy and we want to change. And I get that because part of the six human needs is having some stability, but also having some variety and a little
Yes.
unknown and things like that. We need that. Everybody's a little bit different with how much of what they need. But I often
Sure.
say to people, if it turns out that you are moving because you want to get away from you,
That's right.
you
That's
are
right.
going with you. And so once all the greatness of the new city, the figuring everything
Yep.
out,
Yep.
and it's
Yep.
fantastic, about 6 to 9 months later,
Yep.
it's a little bit different. All of that newness has worn off, and you're still with
Well,
you.
that's exactly what happened to me when I was 24 years old. So I grew up in I was born in Two Harbors, Minnesota, a little tiny town on the tip of Lake Superior. And then I grew up in Duluth, which is at the tip of Lake Superior, and then in Upper Michigan. So both places, far north, having, this is a movie theater, but there's pretty much nothing else. There's like just a couple restaurants, right? There's not a lot of outdoor entertainment, so to speak. Excuse me.
Hmm.
And so I go to college to Minneapolis and I'm like, this is the big city. This is amazing, right? I start drinking. I start drinking. And by the time I'm 24, I'm like, I have to leave. I have to do my dream. I have to move. And absolutely, that's what I thought. I thought if I moved to Los Angeles, I will leave my past behind. Because if I didn't move in that moment, I knew I was going to marry my college boyfriend and be living in Minneapolis. And again, not a bad life, thanks, college boyfriend. Um, but I didn't want to be married and be his wife and, live the life that he was living. I didn't want to do that. So I leave for LA 3, 6, 9 months in, just like you're saying. I'm like, oh, I took myself here. Oh, sugar beans, right? And that is the thing that I know intellectually we all know. We've all, read the memes. We all know the cliches. We've all read the quote books. We've all read, if people are listening or watching right now, they've read enough books, otherwise they wouldn't be here. So everybody is smart and understands that you take you with you. And it still is a shock, I think, when it happens to you, when you're sitting there going, oh crap, it is just me. And then I see that people blame the place, you know. Oh, I don't really like, I had a nephew that went to a different college on a scholarship. And after 3 months, I don't like it here. It's like, no, you don't know it there. It takes a good 6 months to 9 months to like a new place. I know the first, month is like new. Like when the first time I went to London, um, you know, I I'm a friendly person. I go to the same restaurants, go to the same breakfast place all the time, go to the same breakfast place in London. The woman treats me as if she's never seen me before in my entire life. I order the same thing, and she's like, "And who are you?" And I'm like, "I come here every day for the last 3 weeks." And so different cultures have different attitudes. Theirs is all about privacy, and I'm wanting connection because I'm alone in London, right? And I think it takes a good 6 to 9 months to really find yourself in a new place and get comfortable enough to even know if you like a new place.
Mm. Definitely. And as you said, depending upon the place, like if it might even take longer, right?
That's right.
Like
That's
to
right.
get in and to know um what you're like having that routine, you're getting into that, but then actually making friends and connections because I
That's right.
find as
That's right.
adults it does take us longer, and in part, it depends too, are we going alone? When I move alone, and so I'm the single
Hmm.
person trying to make friends with other people, where some people, if they move for work, they have those instant
They have a
colleagues that
built-in.
they get to know.
That's right.
If they have kids, well, instant other parents,
Yeah,
and so
that's right.
those things can help kind of build that, so we have to look to it how we're moving and who we're moving with plays into that, but it's important, and I say to people too, it's you're not on vacation because everyone on vacation, "Oh, I could live here. Oh, I could live here." It's like, no, because everybody likes the fact that you don't have to do anything. Now, maybe if you're retired, but even still, a lot of times people will get bored
Well,
because it's great to be on vacation because we've been so busy, but now we don't
yeah.
have to do anything. We can sit on the beach and have drinks or go shopping or do whatever we want. And it's great for a while, but it does get boring if that's all you're doing. But then unless and if you're not retired, then it's your work routine. Like there's still
Well,
work or
and
there's
so
things that need to be
this is
done.
exactly what happened to me in Vail. So I'm in Vail.
Mhm.
I'm on vacation, and I'm there in the early summer. It's gorgeous. I've been living in LA and Chicago and London, and so I'm in Vail, and I'm rock climbing, and I'm just feeling nature, and it's wonderful. And I remember saying to God, God, I could live here. God, I could live here. And I think like a year and a half later, I'm living in Vail, and Vail's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's lovely. It's in the mountains. I love living in the mountains. I loved physically living in the mountains. I just loved the air. I like winter. I'm happy as a lark in the weather. 3, 6 months, 9 months down the road, I know nobody. There's nobody to meet. I've made all these attempts. The place I live is suffocating. And I remember thinking to myself, I have got to get out of here. I have got to get out of here. And I was traveling a lot at the time. So I was still probably every other week getting on a plane and going to another city or another country. But man, when I came home, I felt like the walls were caving in. And I love Vale as a place, but to live there, it's a very small community. I don't want to say they don't take outsiders in, but it's kind of like they're so used to visitors, because it's a tourist town. They just don't
Mm.
get close to people that are outside there because you're a tourist and you're going to leave. And so, I'm happy to say hi to you and happy, like, thank you for coming here, give us money, but I don't really want to bond with you because I don't know when you're going to leave. Right. So
Right.
it's a very close community, friendly but closed. That's the difference, right? They're friendly, but they're closed.
Mhm.
So I think I made it like a year and a year, a little over a year, a little over a year. And I literally would say to myself, I feel like I'm dying. I feel like I'm dying here every day and I've got to get out. And I, again, loved the location, loved
Right.
the mountains, but the place itself, the energetic field, the lack of
Well,
companionship, etc.
community. We have
Yeah,
to, we need community. And when we're younger in our 20s and things like that, it may not be as important if we're traveling, like as people say, like the digital nomad kind of
yeah, yeah,
life. If you continue to move about, you're always having that newness. But community is very important. And I think it's one thing that people get really kind of overlook is
yes,
having that sense of community. Who's around? Like, what would happen if you were sick? Do you
yes,
have a
that's right.
friend that you can call that will bring you over some soup or some
Yep,
medicine or something? Or if you fell down the stairs and broke your leg, do you have
that's right.
somebody that will go to the grocery store and get you some stuff a couple of times, once a week, a few times, or whatever it may be? And that could be, building that friendships. That could be school if you're learning. That could be church if that's your thing. It could be like whatever it is. But we really do need to have community because without that sense of community, we really do feel lost and
Yes,
lonely. And I know people even get lonely with community but
yes,
having that connection, when you don't have it, we don't realize how important it is. So knowing wherever person's going to move to, whether it's a new city across the country, in a new country, halfway around the
yep,
world, wherever it may be, you have to really know what's important to you. What are your values? What do you like to do? What type of people do you want to hang out with and be with, and activities that you do? And are those things in that city, town,
yeah.
village?
And that's right. And it's interesting because, those are all things you can tick off on a list, right? Like, oh, yep, got this, yep, got that, yep, got this, yep, got this. You ask yourself, am I fearless? Am I willing to move? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. But it really goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is you're taking yourself with you, just FYI, you're taking yourself with you. And,
Mhm.
when you move to another city or another country, it is going to bring up all your insecurities. It's going to bring up all your stuff. And that's the good news, right? That's the exciting part of it is you get to discover
Right.
who you are and you also get to create, who you are. I remember
Mhm.
when I moved to Los Angeles, I was like, "Oh, nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows my past. Nobody knows the horrible story about my parents. Oh my god, I can just, I can be whoever I want to be." Well, that's true on one hand, and you can
Right.
create a new persona, but you also have to have the courage and the skill to do it because you
Right.
think just because you're in a new environment, you'll become somebody new. I'll just be somebody
No.
new because I'm in it, right? But no, you're taking out all your fears, all your anxieties, all your worries, all your
All your
procrastination habits, all your
habits,
people pleasing. Yep, all your people. Yep, everything with you.
all your
And so here,
beliefs.
all your beliefs, all your values, all your confusion, all your worry, all your insecurities, you're taking them with. So, no matter where you are, whether you're, home snuggled up in Vail, Colorado, where I lived, or whether you're traipsing through as being a digital nomad, whatever it is, you must be willing to look at how you work. How do you work? And what I mean by that is, how does your fear move through you? Because most people think, oh, well, that's a character flaw. Yeah, I'm just screwed up there. Oh, I just don't know what to do there. Oh, I never had help there. They have all these reasons, but really, it's your fear, your fear, your fear, your fear. And fear isn't this um, complicated problem, really, even though it has become a complicated problem because people don't know how to deal with it. But I've created something called the Wheel of Fear, and the Wheel of Fear basically lays out for you a 4-step process for you to dissect your fear, dissect what's happening in any moment, and then help you do what I say the Wheel of Freedom, jump on the Wheel of Freedom so you can experience a new you. You can experience different parts of you. You can make different choices. But if you don't understand how you work and you're just moving to get away from yourself, even though you tell yourself you're not, can't get away from yourself. You got to bring yourself with you. So I really invite everyone who's thinking about, moving or, contemplating or already a global citizen and going, okay, ask yourself, how emotionally fearless am I? Am I willing to take the emotional risks that I need in order to achieve my goals, in order to, fall in love, in order to soften my heart, in order to, A, B, and C, whatever it is that's on your list. And hopefully compassion, open-heartedness, seeing innocence are on your list. And to deeply love yourself. So it's really hard to deeply love yourself when your mind is telling you don't deserve that love, or you haven't earned that love, or if you wouldn't have done that when you were 12 or 18 or 52, then you would be lovable, but you're not. You did, and so now you're screwed. Because I know for me, my past, for many, many years, my past, I'd say for over 20 years, really, I believe that ran my life. That ran my life. And even though I tried to run away from it, it kept on following me, as we talked about. And that past, I really believed that past, on some level, when I was going through my difficult times, when I was going through my self-doubt, when I was going through my worry, I would go to believe and go, maybe that's who I am. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm stuck with that. Maybe I can never get beyond that. I did that then. I did it again. And I did it again. Maybe I'm just stuck here. Now, again, I've read the books. I know I can change, but we hit roadblocks in our life, and some things are easy to change, and some things aren't. And when those things aren't, we have a tendency to make them character flaws and make us wrong, bad, evil, unfixable,
Mhm.
broken, not good enough, et cetera, et cetera.
It's and we say that it's just the way I am.
Oh, no,
It's
doesn't work in the
it's it's
world of Rhonda Britten and Fearless Living.
so, but what then, like, as you said, we've lots of people who are here, like, we've read the books, we've listened to the podcasts and the
That's
clips and
right.
the videos and the everything. So we know it can be done. Some people
Yes,
might be
it can.
thinking, "Oh, but it's easy for some people." Maybe for some people it is. I don't really think it's easy for anybody. But the big question is, though, is how? Like, how do we do it? And I know it's something like it's not easy. There has to be consistency, but how do I change how I react, how I
Yes,
feel, what I
yes,
think?
yes. Well, I'm going to say one thing that I invite people to take to heart, which is slow is the new fast. So that seems, I know, like a crazy statement, slow is the new fast, but you actually have to slow down, because the number one thing you must do is become aware. And becoming aware is exhilarating and it's frightening, because we're so good at managing how we see ourselves, manipulating our view of ourselves, giving ourselves those excuses, telling ourselves, well, that's the way I am. I mean, my parents died when I was 14 years old. Both of my parents died in a uh, horrific situation, horrific. My father, at Father's Day, my parents were separated, and he was coming over to take us out to Sunday brunch. And my mom's in her bedroom, fluffing up her beehive hairdo. My sisters are in the bathroom fighting it out. And me and my mom start walking out. My dad walks in, let's go, let's go. And as we walk out to outside, my sister's still in the bathroom. My father says he's going to get his coat from the trunk. He opens his trunk. I see out of the corner of my eye, he's not grabbing a coat, but he's grabbing a gun. And he starts yelling at my mother, you made me do this, you made me do this. And he fires. Now I'm 14 years old and I start screaming, what are you doing, Dad? What are you doing? Stop, stop, stop. What are you doing? And he cocks the gun and he points it at me. And I absolutely think I'm next. And I blink, he blinks, I blink, he blinks. And then my mother, with her last breath, literally screams out, no, don't. My father, realizing my mother's still alive, takes that bullet intended for me, points it at my mother, and shoots her a second time. And that second bullet goes through my mother's abdomen, out her back, lands on the car horn. And for the next 20 minutes, all I hear is, eh. Then my father cocks the gun again, puts it to his temple, and fires. And
Oh
so,
my gosh.
in a matter of 2 minutes, I'm the sole witness to my father in murdering my mother and committing suicide. And, I don't know how other people respond, but I blame myself, right? Because I was the only one physically there that could have stopped him. And I didn't kick my father. I didn't grab the gun. I didn't jump in front of my mother. I did nothing heroic. And people are like, well, you're 14. Yeah, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you think that you could have done something and you didn't, now you are to blame. And so for the next 20 years, I was an expert at running from myself, an expert at trying to leave myself. I was a straight A student. and I got a full ride to college. So on one side, me split into two, the outside Rhonda is awesome. I'm awesome. I'm amazing. I'm amazing, amazing, right? And the inside Rhonda, though, is uh, self-esteem is shattered, confidence is shattered, guilt and shame, uh, running my life. And for the next 20 years, I lived in these two worlds. On the outside, hey, I'm fine, and on the inside, going, don't let anybody find out who you really are, right? Don't let them find out about your past. They're going to think you're screwed up. You're from one of those families. They're going to walk away, because that's what happened when it happened, right? Nobody, my relatives disappeared, friends and family disappeared. Like, nobody wanted to hang, because now I'm one of those families, right? So for the next 20 years, so then in college, I found alcohol. Oh, this is good. This is awesome. And so
Mm-hmm.
I became an alcoholic. I got 3 DUIs. I tried to kill myself 3 times. And it was the third suicide attempt when I woke up again that I realized I've got to figure out another way. This is not working. And by the way, those years that I was struggling, I was reading books and going to therapy and taking classes and doing inner child work, and you name it, I did it. And it didn't take away what we were talking about earlier. It didn't take away all those fears of who I really was. The fear that really I was damaged, the fear that I really was not good enough, the fear that I really was to blame, that, all those fears that perpetuate. And it wasn't until I forgave myself, not only forgave myself, but forgave my father, who was, by the way, the easiest one to forgave my mother, which was by far like, why should you forgive your mother? She was the innocent victim. Well, she was part and parcel of the equation. And I had to be willing to take my mother off that pedestal and see her as the woman she was, as a woman, instead of like this, oh no, God, she was murdered, right? I had to take her off that pedestal. And
Mm-hmm.
then I had to forgive myself for being frozen, forgive myself for being 14, forgive myself for not knowing what to do. I had to forgive myself. And so when I did that, and when I quit drinking, and on that 20th anniversary of my parents' death, when I did that huge forgiveness ceremony, um, I walked away with like a fresh, with a freshness, with my slate clean on some level, right? Like I was willing to forgive the unforgivable, and I was willing to let go of my history that kept me trapped. And I think for so many of us, whether it's, forgiving your father for murdering your mother, or whether it's, forgiving them for not teaching you to be an international citizen, or forgiving them for taking you all over the country and never giving you stability, and again, it's not even just your parents, it's forgiving yourself, it's forgiving the culture, it's forgiving the church, it's forgiving so many things that help mold you, and really stepping out as a you that is purely you and not influenced or affected, i.e., you're seeing it clearly, so that you can look at it with open heart and open eyes. And that's what I said a minute ago. It's like, are you really willing to be aware? Because when you're aware, awareness is critical and is needed in order for you to change anything in your life. You must become aware of what's happening, what you're doing. But that awareness also brings up maybe memories, or maybe brings up, past patterns, and it can bring up shame and embarrassment, right? It can bring up like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And this is where we go to forgiveness. This is where we go to what I call, like I said, the wheel of fear. So we can see how the wheel of fear is keeping you trapped, keeping you believing the worst of you, keeping you believing that you cannot change, keeping believing you that you are the way you are. There's just the way you are, and that's just the way you are, and it's everybody else's fault and not yours, right? So we have to take full ownership of our life, and that is exhilarating and exciting, and as well scary.
Very. Mhm. And that, as you said, it's like very, first of all, very sorry to hear that you had to go through that, but those were your challenges of your
Yep,
journey.
that's right. That's
I
right.
don't
And
want to
everybody has
downplay them.
something.
Horrible, yeah, but everybody has something. Like
That's right.
there,
Everybody has something.
and I'm saying that just so because for people who are listening, there might be somebody who goes, yeah, but my situation is different. You're right.
Yeah,
Everybody's situation is different,
that's
and
right.
everybody goes through different things. Some people's things are, in our own opinion, some of people's things are worse than our own. In our own opinion, ours are worse than anybody else's.
Yep.
And it's just an
No
opinion.
comparison. No
It's, yeah,
comparisons. No
it's,
comparisons. everybody's
The
here to heal
struggles.
their lives, right? That's everybody's here to heal their past and move into the present moment and have one pointed awareness so we can make different choices. So we can actually know what we think right now as who we are today, rather than making decisions based on trying to protect who we're afraid
Mhm.
anybody will see, right? So we make so many decisions based on, I'm going to make this decision because I will look good, because I know it's going to make me happy, and all the while hoping that we can kind of temper or hide this part of ourselves. I sure hope nobody knows that my father killed my mother. I sure hope nobody knows I was an alcoholic and I tried to kill myself 3 times. I hope nobody knows all this stuff, right? I hope nobody knows. I hope nobody finds out, right? So we're saying on one hand, like, no, I want people to know who I am. I want to be free. I want to be authentic, but not this part,
But
right?
right,
But not this part, right? But it's
right.
like,
The
no,
good
no,
stuff.
right?
I'll
Yeah,
be
just the
authentic
good
with
stuff.
the good stuff that I like,
Yeah,
that I think is acceptable. Then I'll
that's
be
right.
authentic with that, but not everything.
But
Because
that's where
then,
the wheel
as
of
you
fear.
said,
Yeah,
that's when we have to look at too. And so again, it's like, well, what kind of life do you want? How do you want to live? And it's not just like where, that's part of
yes.
it. Like, I'm from Canada. I hate winter. I don't want to be anywhere that's cold. And I'm okay with that. But I am aware. I am completely aware that I do not like winter, cold weather. That's fine. I will go to it sometimes, but I don't want to live in the snow.
You don't want to
And
shovel and
I don't
scrape your
wanna
window.
no, I don't wanna slip on ice or,
Yeah,
like any of
yeah,
that
yeah,
either. But
yeah.
and so it's an awareness, and that's like at a simple level, and then activities and things we do, but then also we all have alone time. We all need to have
Mhm.
alone time. How do we feel when we are alone? Because we will
That's
always
right.
have that, and to know that those things happened in the past. We learn from them. I don't believe in failures. I learn in from I believe we learn, I call them learning experiences. Some of them are some of them were tough. I don't wanna learn again. Some of them were
Yeah,
expensive. Some of them really hurt.
yeah, yeah.
But, and it's then saying, "Okay, yep, I did that. It happened. I learned. Hopefully we learned and we're not still doing it. And now it's time to move on because I learned this, so now I know that is not what I want." Or in some cases, it's like, I did like that, right? So
Yes,
it's learning
yes.
what we do like and
Being
don't like, and us ourselves, not what other people say. And it's a word I'm trying to remove from my vocabulary is good. It's not
yeah.
what we should do. It's not where we should be at in our life. It's not what should no, it's it, that word should be deleted. See, and I used it there,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
needs
yeah.
to be
There you go.
deleted.
Well, one of the things that I did in order to change my life is basically talking about, building on what you just said, is I went through a period of time where I went around every day and asked myself, do I like this? Do I like this? My favorite color was green because my boyfriend in kindergarten's favorite color was green, and, here I was 30 some years old, still calling it saying green, like, because I just never really stopped to choose for myself. It was like, no, green's good. I like green. And my favorite food was Mexican because at the time I was married and his favorite food was Mexican. And again, if you would have asked me that I was doing that, I would have said, no, no, I really like green and I really like Mexican. No, I really like that. But when I actually said to myself, I don't think I really know who I am. I don't really think, I don't, if I'm really being honest with myself, I don't know if I've made, how many conscious choices have I made or versus automatic choices, thinking they're conscious, but they're not really. And how much of my life is really based on what pleases me, what really feels, authentic to me. And so
Um,
for, I
just
don't know,
to
gosh, it
just
was,
sorry, I'm just gonna interrupt for a second. For everybody listening, the number is very, very low. I bet for most people, it's like 10%, 20%, maybe if they really ask, because we like or believe because, as you said, your boyfriend did, or the boy in kindergarten
yep,
did, or because our
that's right.
parents told us, our grandma said, the
That's right.
church
That's right.
said, this,
That's
my
right.
best friend,
That's
right?
right.
We need to really look at
Yes.
everything we think and every belief we have. Do I really believe it? And if we can explain it, that's great. And I posted a while ago a post. It says, if you can't explain why you believe what you believe, it's not your belief.
There you go. There you go. And I would say not only explain it, but exhibit it in your life.
Mhm.
right? If you can't
Mhm.
exhibit it in your life, if you can't point to 3 to 5 times in the last week you lived that value, right? Or the last month, then if compassion is a value, if Jesus is, your savior, then he believed in love and compassion and giving and open-heartedness and helping the poor, etc. So where is that showing up in your life? So you
Right.
can't say, you can, obviously, a lot of people do. You can say something, but that disconnect harms you because you, somewhere inside of you, know that you're lying or you're making up or you're pretending or you're faking it. And again, not that you're actively lying because you may truly believe that. But when I stopped and asked myself, do I like this? And I literally did everything. Do I like this pen? I don't know. Do I like this phone? Do I like this bottled water that I like? I literally ask myself every moment of every day, do I like what I'm wearing? Do I like what I'm reading? Do I like that paint on my wall? Do I like the way my light shines? I was ruthless. And it was so amazing to do that exercise just to say to myself, I'm going to ask myself this to see how much of me is in this room. How much of me do I take with me every day? And how much is comprised of what other people have said to me, i.e., therefore, how much of me is built from somebody else's opinion? And that was amazing to me. It was one of the number one things I've done in my life because it really brought to the surface where I was taking on other people's things, as we've been saying, right? Versus the things I chose. And that gave me an opening because of my curiosity, because of my willingness to look. It gave me an opening to start making changes. We have to be open to maybe being wrong, right? Are you willing to be? I always say, Rhonda Britten made up this quote. Are you willing to be wrong about everything to find the right life for you? Are you willing to be wrong about everything to find the right life for you? And if you're willing to be wrong about everything, then what is right for you will be very evident. But if you're not willing to be wrong, then you are keeping yourself in a trap. You're keeping yourself in the same trap, and you'll keep it, and you'll build thicker walls, and it'll be more evidence and more proof. And you'll get yourself so convinced that how you live your life is the way that you want to live it, but you're dying inside, little bits by
Oh,
little bits,
definitely.
right?
Mhm.
Right? So you can
Absolutely.
fake it, you can convince everyone else, you can make a life for yourself. But I think the point, for when I think of a global citizen, it is really seeing the whole world as your home, not seeing your hometown as your only home, but seeing like where do I really belong? What really resonates with me? What lifestyle resonates with me? I just had a friend move to Mexico and she's posting on social media like continuously like, "Oh my god, I feel so free here." "Oh my god, I can't believe it. It's just like people are happy and they're just, they're smiling, right?" I was
Yeah.
in I was in Finland recently. I'm 100% Finnish, so me and my sisters went back and did our genealogy, and we went to
Oh,
Finland, and
nice.
it was amazing. It was amazing. And so here I'm in Finland, and Finnish people are known not to be like the friendliest people, right? And
Mhm.
I just, but I met 55 cousins, and I never felt so held. I felt so held by these 55 cousins, who, by the way, couldn't speak, most of them couldn't speak English. But it just felt like, oh, wow, this is where I came from. And I felt such a kinship and such a belonging. And it looked exactly like Upper Michigan. I mean, driving in Finland was just like driving in Upper Michigan. I was like, oh, now I know why all these Finnish people moved to Upper Michigan. It's exactly the same landscape. But it's like, okay, this is where I come from. I love this. This is my
Mhm.
heritage. This is my DNA. Awesome. And I'm more than this. I'm more than
Yeah.
this. And I get to decide where I live. I get to decide, I have the awesome opportunity to decide where I live. And, if you can't decide where you live, doesn't mean you still can't be a global citizen, right? It doesn't mean you still can't you can go eat Indian for dinner, right? You can go have Thai, right? You can just expand your appreciation for other cultures. And that makes you more of a global citizen. So it's not necessarily always about traveling, it's about attitude and mindset.
That's right. And I mean, I've traveled a ton, and I would say, I'll say almost every, because I don't want to say every country I've been to, but there has definitely been something from almost every country that I have thought, why don't they do this in X country? Whether it's why don't we do this in Canada? Why don't they do this in Italy? Why don't we do this like wherever
Hmm.
it's been? Every country has things that I think, why don't all the other countries do this? Because in my brain, it just makes more sense,
Yep,
right?
yep,
Somebody else may
yep.
disagree or agree, but I'm just like, just things that just to me they make more sense. And then there's things in every country, Canada included, but I think, "Oh my gosh, why do they do it like this here?" And I think, a lot of it is more like efficiency type things or
Yes,
when we look at the environment stuff, there's some countries that do really well with like recycling plastic, and
yeah,
there's one that's making bricks out of plastic, and other places that are making chairs from like cleaning up rivers and just a bunch of different things, and like solar things for walkways that just and they look really cool. I get that there's probably an efficiency, a money factor, or whatever, but I just think if these things can be done because they are being done,
yes, that's
why
right.
aren't we doing things in more countries that are beneficial to the world in more countries if country A is already doing it? It just things like that and just efficiencies
It's yeah,
again is another one,
yeah.
but
No, I think some of it is. I think some of it is just um, my country is better than your country, so I can't take what you have. It's just so much, ego and so much fear. That's
mm,
really because the ego is how fear works.
right.
Yeah.
The other thing too is I've noticed, with traveling more, it's just being so much more open-minded and actually just
Hmm.
having conversations. Like, I love having conversations with people who have a difference of an opinion, a different belief, perhaps a different value, and not and it's just for understanding. Like, I'm not trying to convince anybody to believe what I
Yes.
believe or think what I think because
Yes.
what I think or believe it may not be right. It's not wrong for me, but it's just my
That's
thought,
right.
my belief because what I was taught growing up, and that was only because of
That's
what
right.
my parents were taught growing up because of what like, it goes down from
That's
generation to
right.
generation. My experiences I had, the friends I had, the things I did make me believe things, and I've had conversations with people that have believed the opposite. And they get to be pretty, I don't wanna say intense, but, they're passionate conversations, not yelling, not arguing or anything like that. And I remember one specifically, and, at the end, I just said, "I understand why you believe that, because if
Hmm.
those things happened to me, and if I was
Yep.
brought up that way, I absolutely would, 100% believe exactly what you believe.
That's right.
However,
That's right.
my experience was this, which is the complete opposite, and therefore I believe this because it was
Yes.
my experience, and I'm not going to change it. I can't change it. I don't expect you to change yours, and we can just agree to disagree because we've had different experiences. And I think that kind of comes back to with people, the questioning, why do you believe what you believe? And if you could be open to what other people say, we can realize that different things in different cultures, even though we may not agree with it, some things will be like, "That actually makes more sense. I
Well,
do
and
like that you're
yeah,
doing better than what I'm doing,
yeah,
and I'm gonna take on your belief. I'm gonna take on
yes,
your food value.
that's
I'm gonna
right.
take
That's
on
right.
your whatever it may be, and we can then develop this kind of internal global lifestyle no matter where we have our roots in our community and do travel to take the good of the things that we enjoy with
That's
being
right.
open to all of it from other countries.
Well, that's one of the reasons we have to all get fearless because when we become fearless, we are no longer threatened by people being different than us. Right?
Mhm.
When you feel threatened because somebody is different than you, whether it's the food they eat, the color of their skin, the music they listen to, where they live, anything, how they live, what kind of house they live in, what adobe they live in. If you're threatened by all that, then you're the one that is shaky. You're the one that can't stand in who you are. So we want to be able, as fearless human beings, we want to be able to embrace and see and accept other people's cultures that's right for them, and it doesn't have to infringe on ours, and like you said, like, be open to what, "Wait a minute, maybe I can learn something here." But it takes a fearless person to be willing to open your mind and open your heart to not think of yourself as being right, because being right is a way that we keep ourselves safe. So if you're wanting to be more of a global citizen wherever you live right now, I really invite you to start practicing right this minute. Am I willing to be wrong here? What if they're right and I'm wrong? And again, there is no right or wrong, but it'll feel wrong. So in the beginning, you can say, well, what if I'm
Mhm.
willing to be wrong here? And what's the differences? And how can I connect? And what do we have the same? And enter every conversation with every human being, whether it's in the same town you live in, whether it's your cousin, even entering that conversation different and not expect them to be the same as you always think they are, but say, like, how are they different than me? Like, go and look for how people are different than you. Because when you're able to see that and you're no longer, pushing that aside or afraid of it, worried about it, or worried that you're going to be changed, right? Uh, it's and you really are a global citizen because you are going to be comfortable anywhere you go, whether you go and live in Spain or live in Japan or live in Los Angeles or in Vancouver, Canada, right? So I think that's the crux of what it means to for me right now in this moment being a global citizen is I'm not afraid of you, and I am willing to get curious about you, and I want to discover how the world works, not through only my lens of how I live, but how anyone lives. That to me is a fearless act.
Yeah, I think if it's just really kind of being more open to the why. Why do you think that? Why do you have this perspective? Why does this work that way? Why is it done this way? And why in the sense of curiosity, like to get back to our childhood, right?
Yes.
Remember, like sometimes we say kids, they drive us nuts when they're about 2-ish, maybe 3 years old, when they're all, but why? But why? But why? And it's just asking because and it's just getting information, right? Like if
Yes,
we keep
that's right.
asking, well, why? It's getting information and
That's
it's
right.
what we need to do starting with ourselves, but
That's
why?
right.
As you said, like, do I like this? Why do I like this? What do I like? And asking ourselves those whys and then going on with our friends. Like I have one of my best friends. We don't agree on much when it comes to politics. And we have regular politic conversations. And that's great because
Hmm.
sometimes we do get to that bit of interpretation because even
Hmm.
though we're advanced very well in the world in many ways, our level of language communication is not that good because we'll listen to the same thing. And politics is a great example for it because we have a bit of different beliefs within it. And so we'll say, yeah, so and so said, blah, blah, blah. And that's not right. And they're like, well, that means blah, blah, blah. And she'll say, no, that means blah, blah, blah. And so we have what the person said, and we're both interpreting it either to our benefit or
Hmm.
if it's somebody that we don't like to the negative, even though
Hmm.
it's the same words. And so I
Yes,
think we also need to be careful with the words that we use, how they are meant to be, how we interpretate them depends on our thoughts. Prime
that's right.
example of that
That's
is,
right.
when you read a text or an email and you can read it. If you're in a bad mood, the person's like, oh, yeah, that's great. Instead of if you're in a great mood, oh, that's great. Same words.
Yeah, this happened the other day. My niece called me and was telling me about a date, and she's like, blah 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 blah. I go, oh, well, that sounds amazing. She's like, what? I go, well, it sounds like he's really blah blah blah. And she's like, well, she goes, I was calling you to get to get you on my side. And I was like, well, I don't see it the same way you do. No, I actually think blah blah blah. And she was like, well, okay, I guess it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I'm like, no, it sounds pretty, amazing actually. And she's like, oh, okay.
Well, we want those team players like you're with me or you're the enemy. And I'm hoping that, I hope we're getting away from that. It just seems that a lot in the last several years has been very you're with me or you're the enemy where it used to be, yeah, we could agree on lots. There's a few things we don't that we disagree on and we're still
Yes.
okay, but now it's like 100% and even if there's one thing that we don't agree on, then that's it. You're outcasted,
Yeah.
canceled, don't
Yeah.
like you. It's like
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
should never agree 100% with anyone
never. No, never,
because
because
then
you're
you're appeasing
unique.
them. It's not your beliefs and thoughts.
Well, it's also you're not unique. You know, you're
Right.
you're unique and you have a series of beliefs and values and ideas and thoughts, and you were created in a particular way and you've had particular experiences. So nobody is going to be exactly like you. Nobody is going to think exactly like you. And we just a tangent is, we think when somebody is connected to us or that agrees with us that they're our soulmate. It's like, no, because they don't really. It's just in the first 3 months you think that, but no. So you want to look for things how you're different. That creates the excitement, that creates the spice, that creates the curiosity. So, global citizen isn't just about moving the country, it's about opening your own heart. And how different are you, how accepting are you of different people or different beliefs and different values? Even in yourself. Like, are you willing to change your mind about something? And that's where I challenge you. It's like, are you willing to be wrong about everything to find the right life for you? If you're not willing to be wrong about something, then you are hanging on tight. And I mean anything. I mean, you do it crazy, like, I'm going to challenge whether vegetables are good for me. Just be crazy and just ask yourself, just be curious. Just go,
Mhm.
do I really like these vegetables? I keep saying I like broccoli, but do I? What does broccoli give me? Like, be curious. I know it seems like a waste of time, but what it is it's self exploration and self awareness, which is going to open your heart and open your mind, and you are going to have then more peace, more grace, more light, more ability to be authentically you. And you will have more, just that alone will give you more confidence. So I,
Well,
I know
and
we're, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and even if you start with, like, the little things, then it
That's
makes
right.
it easy. Start with those little things because then when it becomes the bigger, stronger, kind of harder things that you've been believing for a long time and you start questioning yourself, it's tough to start with those big ones, and it's a lot easier to
Yes.
start with smaller ones, and then you really get used to, like, "No, this is really how I feel. This is what I believe." Then
Well,
as we
this,
get to those harder ones, it's better.
well, that's why I just, before, I know we're about to complete, so I want to make sure that I give my little gift away, because this is exactly going to support everyone. It's called Stretch, Risk, or Die. It's a course
Ooh.
to cure procrastination, a course to help you reach your dreams. So if you're thinking about becoming a global citizen or just, changing yourself in your own life in some way, go to fearlessliving.org risk, fearlessliving.org/risk. Put your name, put your email in there, and go and grab. It's 3 50-minute videos. It's got worksheets, it's got a template, it's got everything you need to start going, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. What dreams do I have? How do I want to accomplish these dreams? What it has been holding me back? This is a quick tool. My clients, one of their very favorite tools that will really support you in living a fearless life.
I will make sure that we have that in the show notes for people to click onto. And before we wrap up, is there anywhere else where people connect with you on your website, social media?
I'm Rhonda Britten everywhere. Fearlessliving.org is my website, but heck, if you put Rhonda Britten in, you're going to find me, Britten. And I teach regularly. Go and check out my courses. Go and check out social media, and of course, go and, more importantly, grab that course, fearlessliving.org/risk, because then you'll get into my ecosphere.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Rhonda. I really appreciate it.